welcome to Onesies, a podcast of one season wonders and blunders. My name's Andrew.
My name is Emily.
And we are on our 8th season. And we are once again going back to ABC, pre-Disney, early 90s.
Good old ABC.
Good old ABC. We were talking about this, I don't think on the pod, but
I think it was. It might have been.
it?
Yeah, because I think I heard it again.
All right. So, but anyway, we were talking about how ABC is actually what we end up with because NBC didn't have one season failures, and CBS is
Nobody cared about enough.
Cared about the bootleg,
yeah.
And then ditto Fox. So,
yeah. So we're starting season 8 off with episode 1 of ABC's Going to Extremes, 1992 to 1993. This is, and you had said so, but if you watch it, it is very obvious from the producers of Northern Exposure. Very similar in plot, and everything else is very similar, except it's a warm climate instead of a cold climate. Andrew has a look on his face.
I have a look on my face because okay. So the reason I picked this show was because I know that Emily likes Northern Exposure.
I do.
But we aren't doing multi-season things. Then I came across this. Also on my list of considerations were Equal Justice, which starred George DiCenzo from, yes, but it was it was a lawyer show. Mm-hmm. And I've always wanted to rewatch it, but it has a 2-hour pilot and it had a full first season. So that's a pretty big commitment. Then I thought about doing the Dark Shadows reboot, which also has which doesn't have a full season, but has the long open or the pilot episode. So somehow I then found this show, which stars Joanna Going, who was the lead of Dark Shadows 1990. And also I just discovered the co-creator, Frank South, was like the showrunner, executive producer, whatever they call it back in the day on Equal Justice. So it's all connected. But then this guy went on to do Melrose Place for 180 episodes, and it shows. We'll get to it.
Yeah. Do I have 3 things? I know that question is going to come up quickly. I do have 3 things, and it's more like questions. Okay. 3 questions that I have, which call into question it really takes me out of it. The suspension of disbelief is completely gone for me for a number of reasons. But it's a okay show.
Yes.
The cultural stuff, I'm sure you'll want to talk about. I was very uncomfortable that first 3 to 4 minutes. Ooh, rough stuff.
Yes. And also Carl Lumley, I believe, is not from the Caribbean. He is from Minnesota.
Oh.
Minnesota. Born to Jamaican immigrants.
Okay.
He can do it. He can do the accent for the made-up Caribbean island country that has no casinos, but does have a medical school. Is it the McCourt School? I don't even know if I wrote that down.
It's the guy's name. The Croft University or something like that.
It's a medical school for people who are sure they can be doctors, but there's no empirical way to judge them, and they have the money to go to this place. And he then lets them practice medicine on the native population.
Yeah.
That is actually exactly what it is.
Yeah. Yep. That when you put it like that, makes me a lot more uncomfortable.
Do we want to talk about white saviors? The white savior training camp? It is a white savior training camp. The
It
only
is.
thing
Holy shit.
that I could say about it is that there's a chance we'll get an episode where Carl Lumley's like, I don't actually care why you spoiled fucking white people come down here to do this instead of just like doing something good, like giving away your fucking money. But
Yeah.
at least you're going to be guilted into doing good with your life. Go
Yeah.
the fuck away.
Yeah.
Like, that's best case. Otherwise, it is this show, because I don't know if you experienced this, but Northern Exposure was sort of known as a very white show.
Yes.
Very, very white show. So this one solves that problem by moving the action to the island of Pastique.
Is that
It's
what it
not a
is?
real
It's
place.
not a real place.
So
And there's not really any, well, nothing. I've never been anywhere in the Caribbean, really, I guess, but it doesn't really seem to like hint at it being somewhere. But they all have Jamaican accents. I mean,
yes.
any of the population of people who live there and grew up there have Jamaican accents.
And the opening titles are kind of like a 1912 National Geographic special.
Yeah.
It's pretty fucking bad. However, I'm pretty sure they stole one of those shots, at least the concept for it, from that Daughters of the Dust movie I told you to watch that you
Oh,
haven't
which I
watched
haven't
yet.
watched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should watch that. It's a little bit different than this. But yeah, so this is maybe the last time you could make this show,
Yeah.
right? Because like pretty soon after this, I don't know, did the other networks come in and TV was getting diverse enough? People weren't trying to hit so many markets at once,
Yeah.
and you stopped getting these sort of forced is cultural culturally problematic ensemble pieces, I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, but that's what this is. And for an example of how this arguably could have gone or went right, would have been ER, which did like there were lots of problems, but like it did, the people of color were characters, and
Right.
they had supporting casts, which led to more people of color being in all sorts of things. This show is about a bunch of background people.
Yeah. And I'm hoping that one or two actors who are people of color can come in and have like their own episode. So my thing with this is Northern Exposure was a similar thing, ensemble cast, but Fleischman was the main character. And
Right.
for the most part, I mean, eventually everyone got their own episodes, but like the action acted around him. In this, it's an ensemble cast. And for me, I had a difficult time understanding who the main character was. I was looking for the Fleischman. Now, there is a guy on this cast whose name escapes me, who is kind of the weenie sort of like, I'm here for business and I'm all worked up and blah, blah, blah. And he unfortunately reads Jewish to play into some stereotypes. But I was really struggling with who am I supposed to be, like, who is the action around? Is it who did you say? Daniel Jenkins as Alex Lauren, or is it Joanna Going as Kathleen? I wasn't sure who the main character was. They were the first two that we see, the first two that we meet, the first two who kind of have a conversation and, have that little exposition dialogue that they have at the very beginning. And the thing seems to follow the two of them. The episode seems to follow the two of them. So I was really struggling with that. I'm interested to see where it'll go. It's not bad. It's just, there's a lot of people to keep track of.
Yep.
And I don't like it. It's too many people.
It's a lot of people.
All living in the same house. Oh my God.
It's like Real World. Oh
like
my
Real World.
goodness. It's predated the Real World by a couple of years. Maybe this is where they got the idea. It's not. You can look that up, I'm sure. So, what are your three questions?
So I have three questions. If you get a degree at Croft University, are you allowed to practice medicine in the United States?
No,
Um,
I can answer that.
and remember Granada, is that a threat?
Yes,
And why would you question taking an anatomy class if you're in medical school? Those are my three questions.
because you're a stupid rich kid.
It seems like anatomy is just a basic class you have to take in medical.
On the other hand, would you listen to soap opera Sean Connery try to tell you anything either?
No, good point.
Right.
Good point.
Because that dude was on a soap, wasn't he? I'm going
Was
to
he?
click his name.
I don't even know what his
This
name
dude,
is.
Charles Keating,
Oh, Charles
was
Keating.
on a
Okay.
fucking soap. He must have been. 204 episodes of Another World. This was when they tried to like get him on nighttime.
Okay. So we don't have to have this conversation about soap opera acting, but it is real acting. It's just in a different way. And you can give him all the shit you want to, but he could act you under the table. Baby.
That is 100% true. That being said, he chose to play his role, and they chose to package him as Sean Connery from the early 90s when he had the longer ponytail. So this is, I don't know if this, oh no, Medicine Man's like 92. So this is
the same time.
This is the exact same time. They saw the Medicine Man. They said, let's make him look like the Medicine Man. And he is doing a Medicine Man thing. Medicine Man is a fucking terrible movie. And it's a terrible idea. But yes, the guy who asked why the hell he needs to know about anatomy if he's not going to be a surgeon. Well, hold on. I'm sorry. That was the only other black person.
That's true. That's
with
true.
a line in this episode.
Yeah.
So
there were what? There was the sick guy, the cop, the guy running the limo service.
Yep.
Erica, what's her name? Alexander, and that guy. And Norris.
Yep. Norris and the guy's wife talks to him.
Yes. So seven people of color have lines. First episode.
But the background is 175 people of color.
Yeah.
Being very like, I don't know where they filmed this.
Yeah, and there's no information on the Wikipedia at all.
Okay. Because they didn't film this like filming and production. Okay, they say they filmed it in Jamaica. All right. I mean, that provided an influx of cash into the economy, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. We could probably also find some interesting articles about this if we went back. But anyway, so those were your questions. Sad that I could answer them before we even started.
Before we even start.
Okay. I am going to talk about, God, I'm not, because it's too weird. Like, I feel like we need to go with the flow on this one, because it's like, if I pick out three things after this introduction, it's going to be a lot harder on the show than it actually deserves.
Yeah, and this show, like you just said, acts as an introduction to all of the characters.
Yes.
As well as the plot of the show. And I suspect the sort of B plot of having accreditation people come is going to be strung throughout the series.
Another thing before we start, I was very curious about the way it sort of splits in two at the 22-minute mark.
Mm-hmm.
It very much feels like they were floating the idea of doing a half hour, like a Northern Exposure as a half hour show.
Yeah.
Like, which would have been revolutionary at the time. So they didn't do that. Okay. So are you going to sing us the opening song?
I don't remember it.
Okay. Are you going to do any voices?
Oh boy, I'm not. I think
Okay.
I think I'm gonna make that choice to not do voices.
Well, most of the people in this show chose to do voices, and by that, I mean the white people. Um, yes. So M-O-N. There are my three things.
You got it,
Okay.
friend.
So yeah, so it starts with okay, the other thing we'll need to talk about is the character names. I should have bolded when people finally got their fucking names. This show is about a bunch of people meeting one another for the first time.
Yeah.
They do not exchange names.
And with a cast this big, I had a difficult time remembering people's names. I still don't remember people's names.
This was a big problem this era, and it got to be like, I think maybe the Entertainment Weekly review of Friends was like, I can't keep track of these six fucking people and their supporting cast. I didn't watch the first two episodes because nobody watched them because nobody thought it was going to be a thing. So I didn't know that Ross and Monica were supposed to be brother and sister for like 3 episodes. Like, you can't keep fucking track of it. And this one's really bad because all of the white men look
Kind of
very
alike.
similar.
Yeah.
The casting director had a fucking type, and it was J. Crew Boy. It's J. Crew Boy buff, J. Crew Boy frat, and J. Crew Boy kind of Jewish.
Weenie nerd, yeah.
Okay, it starts on a this is all to say I'm going to refer to these people by their names and their actors' names and their characters' names, but you would not know this. You will not know the black girl's name until she has gone off twice.
I still don't know it.
Cheryl.
Cheryl. Oh, Jesus.
But
when did they ever say it? Whatever. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. She really does not. That's really weird. It's a really bad part. Like,
Yeah.
this is not a part Erica Alexander should have been doing at this time in her career. She had a lot more experience, I think, at this point. And Joanna Going was like a show killer. Like, she was
that's too bad
infamous.
because she was good in this.
Yes.
Whatever.
I've always liked Joanna Going. She's just very, yeah. Anyway, so Joanna Going, whose name is Kathleen, she is on the plane with Daniel Jenkins playing Alex. She gets airsick. He's flirty in a weird way, but then it turns out they're both medical students. Then we find out through a series of events. Do we find it? Well, I'm going too fast, I think, because I'm forgetting to talk about the plane. To puke, they don't give her a bag. They have her lean over and puke out the side. And I'm like,
puke out the door. They open the door on the airplane that you're never supposed to open, and they let her puke outside. Yeah. And the pilot says, that's okay, I'll slow down.
Yeah. We do not incidentally get a shot of the plane like flying low or slow or something. It's a very northern exposure helicopter thing, but the mooses are the black people. So this is the worst thing the northern exposure people could have done. Like,
it was bad. It was, and things on tropical islands can be a little bit more rustic than maybe somebody who is pre-med in Chicago or New York is used to. But this is setting it up like this is some backwoods place, and that's just what we do. We don't have throw-up bags. We just fly the plane a little bit slower and open the door so you can puke. It kind of caught me off guard.
There will be voodoo.
I was thinking the same thing.
There will be voodoo.
At the end of this episode, they kind of preview the next episode.
Oh, I missed that.
I barely missed it. There's something that looks like, oh, some voodoo thing, like a person in the shadows outside at night with like a eerie light behind them. And I was like, oh no, they're going to do an episode about voodoo, aren't they?
There are going to be so many magical Black people on this show. Just like maybe 2 to 5 at once. Like, who knows? They could team up. It's going to get bad. Like, but we're not there yet.
We're not there yet. Nope.
We're not
We're
there
still
yet.
introducing the characters and the place. The people.
Have we gotten any names yet?
Nope.
Nope.
You would think that these two medical students would introduce themselves to each other, but they don't.
Well, he's a fucking creep.
That's true.
He is really kind of a creep to her. Like, yeah. But anyway, yeah. So we get the opening credits, which are not great. Were we recording when I referred to them as the 1918 National Geographic film?
Yeah, we were recording.
Okay. Well, there we go. I said it again.
It's very
really
Caribbean calypso style music.
Yes. With a very stylized
and it sounds like the same person who did the Northern Exposure theme song did this theme song.
Yeah. Was Northern Exposure on ABC? I thought it was on CBS.
I think it was on ABC.
CBS. CBS, baby.
Oh.
This is when those dudes wanted to leave. Okay.
Weird.
Old TV. Yeah. So
what was Twin Peaks on?
That was on ABC.
Huh. I guess I assumed Northern Exposure was because they did a Twin Peaks theme episode, after it kind of got less good.
No. If it was, that was sort of the era of that level of current cultural phenomena thing.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get a Twin Peaks inspired episode of this, but instead
voodoo.
we are going to come back. We are on the island of Jantique, and there's some confusion with dude getting his luggage. I zoned on a lot of the cultural insensitivities. And
so it starts off really bad where a Black man who's I can't find on the cast list.
The cast list is incomplete. It's
he walks up to the guy and grabs his bags, and the white guy, Alex, thinks that his bags are getting stolen. And wait, come back. What he doesn't realize is that this is the guy who's driving him to his lodgings. I don't even know.
No.
We discover that he doesn't even have a place to live.
Right, because Alex is...
Because why would you show up and not know where you're living? Like, even if you're living in a dorm, you know where you are living. I don't understand. But it is explained to him by Kathleen that, oh, you need your own lodgings. Obviously, you missed the orientation. But this leads me to wonder how she walks into her house and she already knows exactly what's wrong with the power or whatever. She's immediately has to address some issue.
She's been living there a while.
Has she? She's a first-year student too.
But I mean, like a week, 2 weeks, a few days. Maybe. Like, because she knows the other people at the house. It's not her first time going to the house.
Yeah.
We do not, however, she doesn't, in addition to them not exchanging their fucking names, she doesn't explain that she lives with 4 other people.
Yeah, we never hear it. But before we get to that, the guy discovers he lost his wallet, he lost his passport, and he's all pissy about that. And they have to make a stop to the police department. Again, we are representing the islands, the Caribbean islands, as a place where people just don't care about crime.
Well, yes.
And so the police officer just kind of shoos the guy away. It's too late. We can't do anything about it today. And he's very uptight. What do you mean it's too late? It's 1 PM. I don't have any money. I don't have my passport. And then he says, "Remember Grenada," and I was like, "What
I
is
mean,
happening?"
he says, "I'm an American citizen"
yeah.
first, of
Oh
course.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm an
So
American citizen. We have embassies, we have ambassadors. Remember Grenada, and I'm like, "Holy shit, dude! What
that's
are
the
you
hero.
doing?
That's our hero.
What the fuck? What the actual fuck?" I was taken aback by that. I did not find that clever. I did not find that amusing.
Right. This is
Whatever.
one of those shows. The reason I'm sure the reason it never caught it was too late. Like
The thing
the
about Fleischman in Northern Exposure is that you're supposed to kind of not like him at first because he is uptight and he finds himself in this wacky place, and it's not even necessarily about uh the native population where he is. It's just about all the weird people that find themselves in Alaska, which I can relate to. But this is more like, I'm a white man from the United States. You need to do my bidding, or else the
I'm gonna
army is
call
gonna
the
invade.
embassy. Yeah, and they're gonna invade to get back my wallet and passport.
Not a great look. This
No.
is unforgivable, I think.
So, oh no, this guy's gonna get less likable
Yes.
as
Oh
we
yeah,
go
yeah, yeah.
along.
Absolutely.
Just wait, everybody. Emily and I are gonna have to broach the forbidden subject, actually, at one point. Okay, so this is way okay, yeah. I lived for 25 years in Chicago and I never got robbed. Um, and then I get robbed in a tropical paradise.
In an
And then
international airport, and nobody cares. And it's like, why didn't you go to airport security? Why are you going to the police?
Well, even still, there was a shot of the security guard in the airport too, so that would have made sense. Okay, so then this is where Kathleen's like, "Where are you living?" And he's like, "In the dorm," and she's like, "There is no dorm."
You
He's like,
dipshit.
"No dorm," and then she's like, "Did you miss orientation? The letter from July," and I'm just kind of like, "That's a terrible line.
Yeah.
What are you doing, TV?" Like, that's the other thing I don't think people understand. Now you get people dropping like devastating lines at the end of an episode, maybe at the end of the first act, if you're lucky. Back in the day, you got them every commercial break on a soap opera. You got, and then so soap operas would then do, multiple bombshells every couple scenes, right? Like it continued getting worse. And then finally it somehow exploded into, I don't know, Grey's Anatomy or whatever.
Yeah.
So now here, what we're getting though is like this very, I don't know. But again, the show's not bad. And it's going to get better. I think some of it does get better.
I
Like,
think so too. And I'm hoping
um,
that like with Fleischman, like lessons are learned and he becomes more better. I don't know. Like,
doesn't leave the show. So we're
yeah.
stuck with him. We're stuck with all of them.
So, but I'm just hoping that that's the point. Like, it's like a Fleischman situation, except he's worse in that, he throws a hissy fit and then somebody's like, "Hey, dude, chill the fuck out." And then he chills the fuck out until the next episode where he throws a hissy fit about something else.
So now we cut to school. We forgot to mention that we were also introduced to another student at the airport. We were introduced to,
Oh, yeah, that guy.
what's that guy's name?
Colin?
Colin.
That's the only name I can remember.
J. Crew, frat boy Colin, played by Robert Duncan McNeil, who was on one of the Star Treks as he was on Voyager as the sort of, I don't know, acerbic.
He was a guest star in LA Law and Quantum Leap and Murder, She Wrote.
He was in Masters of the Universe. He's very famous. He directs now and does Resident Alien on Sci-Fi. He does good work now. TV's really good now, just in general. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about
He
the
was also a soap opera actor.
see ABC. But yeah, so we met him. He didn't want to ride. He was going to walk to school from the
And he's got an attitude problem. He did everything but flip the guy the bird on his way
right.
past. Like he was like, "Fuck off! I'm walking."
So
Bye.
yes, he was openly hostile to the guy,
Hmm.
Ron, right? He still wasn't as mean as Alex is to the guy.
Nope.
Still wasn't as mean.
Nope.
Somehow being mean, like overtly mean, great lead character. Okay. So at the school, we've got Dr. Norris, played by Carl Lumley, who we double checked is of Jamaican descent. He's the dean and the only real doctor within 100 miles.
Yeah.
So Colin's all pissy that some seminar was canceled, and the guy's like, the person had to go somewhere else and do something, blah, blah, blah.
And you find out
And
that Colin's got a chip on his shoulder because Norris got his degree from where? Fancy school in Philadelphia or Pittsburgh. Sorry.
No.
Anyway, got a fancy law medical degree, and
John Hopkins?
Johns Hopkins, yes. And I'm stuck on this island, and my transfer to a real medical school didn't go through, and blah blah blah. So we've got this white kid being elitist, like, I deserve to go to Johns Hopkins, not you. You're probably a diversity candidate, right? I can see this. I can just see it. He doesn't actually say it.
Someday I'm going to be a rich doctor. I'm going to fucking pay Clarence Thomas off.
Oh, God. Anyway, so he's got a chip on his shoulder, and he's going to be a son of a bitch the whole time. He's going to be a bastard this entire episode, for the most part. Ganug. I'm done with this guy. I hate this guy. But we do meet Norris. It's a good introduction to him. He's very calm, cool, and collected, and he sends him on his way.
So then we cut to the house,
where we should get more introductions, but we don't.
But we don't.
But we do meet all of the people. We just don't hear their names.
Right. We do meet all the people. So we are meeting Kim, who is the Australian,
I believe.
Proto Hemsworth. He's like, what if Kato Caitlin was a good thing? Like he's zen, and
he's blonde, and he never wears a shirt, and he does Tai Chi.
Right. He's like the perfect hippie dude, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Then we meet Cheryl, played by Eric Alexander, who starts her scene by bitching that somebody used her towel, and she knows they don't care, but it bothers her. And we find out that it was Andy Lauer's character, Charlie Moran.
Charlie.
Who does not get the name Charlie until the last scene, I think.
Are you serious?
Oh, she calls him Moran.
Oh, yeah. I do remember that.
So, and what's her face? Kathleen leaves Alex in the kitchen, and he meets all these people but doesn't. And then they run out to discover that a goat has gotten stuck down the well. Whoop, whoop.
And then Cheryl is like, oh my God, we take a shower with that water. Oh my God, we drink that water. So I don't know what to say. It's gross. Is it dead? I think it's dead, right?
Is it dead? They don't establish it.
They don't say.
No.
But it's not splashing around or anything.
No.
And anyway, Kim, the hunky dude, decides he's gonna go down and try to get it out of the well.
And the other guys act like he's fucking climbing Mount Everest in a toga. Like,
well, they're just such like goofball city boys that they.
Okay, but you can tell how. Can you see how fit Andy Lauer is? Like that dude is fit. Like watch him the next time. He's a little dude, but it's like, They actually will make an Arnold Schwarzenegger reference in this, won't they?
Oh, do they?
Or was that I watched Night Shift last night? It could have been Night Shift. Anyway, Night Shift, 1982, about two morgue workers who become pimps.
Oh.
And it was far less problematic than this. In fact, it was, humanistic and progressive, but 1982 and still ahead of 1992 ABC. Okay. We find out that they can't have a computer because there's no good electricity. So that's a problem.
Andy only drinks goat milk because it helps settle his stomach. So Charlie, there's a few things. Charlie, sorry. There's a few things that are established in these scenes.
I wrote affluenza.
And then, I don't know. Then we cut to the classroom.
There's that weird line, though, where Alex has changed now. We've gotten to a different revision on Alex's lines, where he now this is going to be Alex being more likable.
Oh.
He makes that joke about goats floating where it rhymed, and he intentionally rhymes something.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's interesting, because usually he'd be like, do we all fuck Joanna Going, or how does that work? Like,
do we just take turns?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Because he's a fucking garbage pig. Anyway, so we don't
more on that in a minute.
We don't get any resolution to the goat. I assumed it was alive. I'm sorry.
I assumed it was dead. No. I'm sorry.
Poor baby goat. I also assumed it was a baby goat. See these things?
and we discover that it is Charlie's goat.
Yes, it is Charlie's goat. He traded his stereo for. I don't know why. Oh, for the milk, I bet. Yes, the goat milk
because it's fresh goat milk.
And it calms his tum-tum.
Aw.
Cut to commercial, and then come back to Roy Dotrice doing his. You said George C. Scott.
He's got a George C. Scott vibe.
He seems like George C. Scott said no.
Yeah.
It seemed this is also would become a. Anthony Hopkins escaped this. Like, if streaming had come 10 years earlier, this would have been where Anthony Hopkins ended up doing one of these. He's the wise old man, except in this, the joke is he's not the wise old man. He's the kooky, rich doctor who was never that good of a doctor, but he came up with a hip replacement and he sold his patent for $55 million.
And he started a school for all the other ne'er-do-wells
who were told they couldn't do it because there's no empirical evidence they'd be any good at it. They're just sure they can do it, and they're sure they can afford it.
And then he shits on, medical education and institutions of higher learning, which, whatever. You're just a number to them, but here we're going to teach you.
A score. You're just a score. Was that something else?
I don't know. And then we are introduced to Dr. Norris again, where he gives them a little pep talk that's less peppy.
Eight of you
are going to be. Yep.
After the first term. It's a 35-person class, he also establishes. So that's 8. So 35 minus 8 is 27. And then he's like, and only half of you will graduate. And it's like, okay. Or it's only half of you will graduate and take foreign exams. So maybe it means that only half of the people who graduate take foreign exams, meaning they could practice in the United States.
So I have a limited experience with this. I know somebody who lived in Miami for a little bit, who was involved with medical education. And in Miami, there are a lot of people from the Caribbean who moved to the States, and they were not able to practice law in the United States. So they were going back to school to become nurses.
Yep.
So I found that a little bit unrealistic.
There's some movie that they humanize the white supremacy guy, by the cab driver. Maybe it was a TV show. Oh, I think it was an episode of The Equalizer where there's a cabbie who's a doctor and he's the only one who can perform this surgery. And, and it's like, the problem is that's fucking true.
Yeah.
And, there's a medical shortage right now. But yeah, this didn't start earlier. This was always a way of the US sort of tacitly degrading other people.
You get in the 70s people coming over from places like China and India to get engineering and medical and various degrees in the United States and then staying. So you want people to come to the States. You want all the talented people to come to the US. You don't want them to go elsewhere and then come back.
Right.
I don't know.
So it's problematic.
It's problematic, and it didn't read as real to me. And I know that it's just a TV show, whatever. But
even that conceit, yeah.
This
I've discovered is called The Plumber Problem by this guy John Siracusa on the Accidental Tech podcast. The Plumber Problem refers to when your knowledge of how something actually works makes your suspension of disbelief break momentarily.
I have that. Yeah. Okay.
So yes, but with this, unfortunately, it's like all of reality doesn't work with this.
Yeah.
Okay. So we then move on to these pep talks, but Norris kind of implies that they're going to have the white people are going to have problems adjusting.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, let me know if you have any problems. Good luck.
And so we established that all of these first-year medical students who are in the room, the 35 of them, are going to be on a schedule to help at the only clinic on this island.
Yes.
Which I'm assuming will become a bigger part of the show. It's a little bit in this, but I'm assuming it'll become a bigger part. And so the schedule's in the back. Anyway, after the meeting, Alex sees his friend who drove him to...
Would you say that they are friends?
No, but they end up spending some time together.
They do end up spending some time together.
Yes, so he chases after him and is like, hey, let's go get my wallet.
No, he chases after him and goes, you.
Oh, yeah.
Stop that man. Stop that man.
Oh, my God. Yes,
and
I remember.
I believe he says, don't, hey, M-O-N me.
Yes.
And then the guy's like, look, dude, I got your wallet from my other cousin who's a thief, and here it is, and here's your passport. And the guy's like, and Alex is like, where's my money? And the black kid Ron says, I couldn't ask him for the money. That'd have been rude. That might be his last appearance in this episode.
No. He's the one that takes him to the store at the end, near the end, because his other cousin runs the store. I think that's going to be a running gag.
Right.
I think that's going to be a running gag where he's just related to everybody.
Yeah. Okay. Here, speaking of problematic, we now get Joanna sitting on a bus, going to the clinic.
Yes.
It is a montage sequence.
Yes. And again, remember, you're just hanging out with the yokels. And it's a ratty old bus, and she can't open the window. That's one of the things I can remember.
That's the first one. The kid and the popsicle, so problematic.
Somebody's got a chicken or something. A goat. There's a goat. Yeah. There's a fish. Yep, I remember the fish now. Yeah, so there's a montage, and she doesn't seem... She's not, like, overly acting this. She doesn't seem, like, put out necessarily.
She seems like...
I feel like if somebody hung a bunch of freshly fished fish, I would be like, whoa, because the smell would bother me.
But
she doesn't seem to be having much reaction to it. It's just she sees it.
They said, can you act like it's the cantina scene from Star Wars? And she said no. And she's like, I will sit there and I will let them do these things. Her agent. Yeah. The person who tried to make Joanna Going a thing until 1996 was like, she is not fucking doing that. She will sit there. She will be polite. She is going to smile at the child and make it really fucking awkward when the kid offers her the popsicle. And she's like, no, you're poor, 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 poor.
Yeah.
Like, her agent was like, she will not do the other things you want her to do.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I mean, we've talked about
rough.
it, but we've not used the word. There's a very classist theme happening here. So beyond white savior, beyond the racial differences, there is a very classist thing happening.
Like, we could possibly get an episode where there is a local kid in the university who doesn't get along with Alex, and Alex will be colonial. Like, we have not had literal colonialism yet, but
he did threaten to call in the
he
forces.
did do that. He did do that, but we have not had anybody. The show has not. The show there was just being kind of racist. Like, this is, this is big picture stuff. But intercut with these terrible scenes is Discount Sean Connery, Charles Keating.
Yes.
Talking about anatomy, giving the serious this is medical school speech. The only one we'll get, the one that I was waiting for from Carl Lumley episode that we do not get.
Yeah.
And this is where the only Black student other than Eric Alexander with a line, and possibly one of the only other two Black students, because the class of 35 appears to have 3 people of color in it.
Yeah, the class of 35 on a Caribbean island.
Well, no, because how much is he charging? 55 million to actually train doctors is not going to lead it that long. He's charging a fortune to do this. This is getting your, diploma mill degree, but then also having to go down and actually having to learn how to do it. So, I mean, he's not like teaching them bullshit. Like, he's just not, teaching them doctor stuff. I don't know. But yeah, so we get intercut with that, but then we finally get to the fucking clinic. Oh, Nurse Sarah.
So there's a nurse and there's the cousin. So we're up to 9 speaking roles for people of color. 9.
Do we want to talk? Is there a nice way of talking about how Nurse Sarah is portrayed? There's not.
No. She's not portrayed well.
as a drill sergeant.
Yeah.
With body humor.
Yeah.
So it really fucking sucks. And it's hard to believe it's happening in 1992.
Yeah.
It seems it's like something that would have been in 1983 and people would have been like, that's a little late to be racist.
I feel like in the UK where they have a lot of Jamaican people and Caribbean people, in a comedy they would have made a joke, like a hard C comedy. Mm-hmm. They would have made jokes like this. I feel like in Ab Fab they had the Jamaican nurse, right, who was a hard ass, and
it was also played by somebody with more than 2 lines.
Yes.
Okay, so Joanna Going goes in, and Robert Clark Duncan, or whatever his name is, Colin Midford, of the Vermont Midfords. Colin is telling a man that this man is in wanting to get stitched up his gash on his hand. Ugh. Colin observes that he has lesions on his feet and is like, is this bothering you? And the dude's like, no. And he's like, I think you got diabetes, dude. I think we need to do a test. Dude doesn't want to do a test. Colin's shitty and unpleasant to him. And dude storms off. And then Colin yells at Joanna Going.
Yeah. The end.
So we then cut to Sean Connery and Alex in line at the mess, where
it's like a bar, isn't it?
Well, it's connected to the school.
Okay, so it is. Okay. It's like a cafeteria, but it looks like
it looks like a resort cafeteria because that's what this place is. It's a resort where you don't stay there, but you presumably get bored because Alex does not resolve not having any money this whole episode.
Right.
So he complains that he's getting a goat cheese and pork omelet for breakfast. He complains about
recipe for a coronary. Isn't that his joke? Cool. Sounds delicious to me.
I know. I was like, that sounds really fucking good, dude. Where's my goat cheese and pork omelet? Anyway, so students are now discussing how much they're going to have to read for medical school.
Yeah. A lot. A lot is the answer.
A lot is the answer.
This is when, what's his name? Charlie starts to get a little bit more stereotypical, and he's concerned. He's taking all of these classes. It's like 5 classes. No, it's like 7 classes. And Mr. Hero, Alex, is like, okay, so you're taking 5 classes, and let's say you have to read 7,000 words per class. That's 35,000 words this semester. That's 1 page every 2 minutes, 24 hours straight. And it stresses the guy out. Is it Charlie? Am I wrong?
No, it is Charlie. Because then this is where Cheryl comes in.
Yes.
And it's like, Moran, your goat milk got in my tampons or something.
No, it's your goat ate my shoe.
Oh, but then she also complains that she needs tampons.
Yeah.
And they're weird about it. But
this is where Ron, because Ron is at the table too.
And then Ron is like, hey, I know where you can get some of that stuff, because they're talking about all the amenities they cannot get.
The double ply toilet paper and the tampons are the only 2 things I can remember.
They're having Cheryl say all these things.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some interesting optics to it. Okay, because the white saviors could never say these things, but they're going to let the black woman say them, and they all get to benefit.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, cool. Okay, so
good for her.
They go to this convenience store where the shelves are bare.
But Ron's cousin owns it. Again, I feel like this is going to...
owns it. She refers to the rich doctors as Marcus Welby and Trapper Joan, which I thought was the funniest thing on the show. Then Cheryl gives... Alex tries to be shitty and goes, do you have any Nouveau Beaujolais? And she's like, no, I prefer a 90s,
California Red.
Yeah, or some shit. Yeah, it was California Red. It's like, haha. And so it turns out that she has all the shit. It's just not on the shelves because, what are they saying? She would be robbed, but everybody knows she has it in back.
I don't know. I don't know what they're saying. It's weird.
Yes, it's weird. It's just a scene that also establishes that Ron is the guy who has... I think he will have cousins every episode.
Yeah.
But we also have Kim out front playing domino, which no one can understand.
Yeah.
And Kim is playing dominoes with some of the fellas who don't have lines, of course. But yeah, it's just like a thing where Kim is comfortable being a shirtless Ken doll around the natives.
Yeah.
Kim is the guy who leaves the resort to hang out in town, and everybody loves him.
Yeah.
So then we cut to, and then Alex doesn't have any money, but he has his credit cards.
And doesn't he ask Cheryl if he can write, if she could write a check?
Yeah. So he needs Cheryl to pay for him. He's so lovable. Okay. We then cut to Kathleen and Colin, who, spoiler alert, are being set up as love interests. Yeah. Where he berates her for doing the gram stains wrong. He told her the wrong way to do it. She says, you're making me feel useless. Why aren't you training me? We have to pay attention to this because it'll turn out that he feels the same way in his relationship with Carl Lumley.
Mm-hmm.
He's being failed by women and black men. It's the plight of a white man. Okay. So, moving on to, but she isn't here for it. Joanna Going's been on more fucking shows than Robert Clark Duncan.
She stands up for herself, and I'm like, yeah.
He's like, you know what? I'm sorry your life isn't going the way you want, but that is nobody's problem but your own.
Yeah.
Why don't you get on your own case? And she walks off.
Yeah.
We now cut to, we cut to Roy Doctrice bitching about his ex-wife.
Yes.
And how her butt wasn't nice enough, and he's got a nicer butt now or something because of his crunches, his vegan crunches. And here we get a bunch of blah, blah, blah talk about the school getting accreditation, but really, Roy Doctrice sent the evaluators to Aruba to drink, gamble, and carouse with ladies.
And he describes them in a disgusting way.
Yes. They never say they were fucking Mormon. And if they coded it for that, they toned it down.
Yeah.
But I'm like,
they are from Utah.
They're fucking Mormon. Like, okay. So then yes, this is about Arnold. When he talks about how they're looking at corpses and they're looking at cadavers, and Roy Doctrice is like, I haven't seen lats on a young white guy like this since Arnold. And it's just like, what the fuck is this show? Like, why? Who was like, that's a funny joke? Like, it's a chat GPT thing. Like,
and then he lifts up two hands and he's like, look, twins.
And Carl Lumley's just like, this is fucking dumb. Like, we're a medical school.
Weird. Okay. It was weird.
We then cut to Mikey and twins. Oh, it's the halfway point. Okay, so it's where we see the butt because it's 1992 and it is ABC. And they are turning up the heat on Tuesday nights on ABC with Going to Extremes from the creators of Northern Exposure. And Alex is looking out at the ocean for dolphins and whales. I expected him to say something problematic about the whales, but he didn't, and I was happy. But then, he says, I wonder how it got out, implying he thinks all whales live in captivity, which was really fucking stupid.
Yeah, that was dumb.
For a second there was going to be like a water.
I didn't get. I mean, I heard it, but I didn't understand it. I was like, "What is he talking about?"
But then, meanwhile, Charlie is really upset. Studying is not going well for him, and
he's asking questions. What is this? What is this? What is this? Alex doesn't know, but he's like, oh, that sounds bad. And then Kim walks by and Kim knows exactly what it is. And he's like, let me borrow your notes. I want to borrow your notes. I'll pay you for them.
Kim's like, I don't have notes, man. It's all in my head because I am fucking zen.
Yeah.
And off he goes. Alex looks out again and sees a blonde woman taking off her bathing. I believe she takes off her bathing suit, right?
No, she's wearing like a cover-up. That's blowing in the wind.
Okay.
She's at the beach. It's blowing in the wind. There's nobody else around. And as he watches, she takes it off and her bare bottom is exposed and her bare back, whatever. Full backle, but from like a quarter mile away. You can barely
1992, baby. This'll let your husband let you leave it on till the half-hour break. And it is at the half-hour break. Like, we promised you butt on primetime TV, and you will get it at 9:30. Okay.
For about 6 seconds, and the butt will be the size of your thumb on the television.
Yes. And he's like, who's that? And they're like, Dr. Davis. Then Alex says, she's just waiting for a medical student to throw her down in the sand. And Charlie's like, dude, I want to be a fucking doctor. I'm here to study. What is wrong with you? I'm not here to chase women.
Yeah.
Storms off. What's Alex there to do? We'll find out after we cut to Colin going out to the boondocks.
Yes. So Colin shows up in this community where seemingly it seems like there are structures going around kind of a central garden where there are many people gardening, including a woman who, does she even have any lines? Oh, yes, she does. She has like one or two lines. And he is looking for, what was that guy's name?
George Turnbull.
Looking for George, the guy who he had potentially diagnosed with diabetes in the previous scene. And it appears to me, I read it as her being George's wife.
Yes.
Maybe I'm wrong. But she is gardening. There are kids. There are other people gardening, people sitting around playing dominoes and whatnot. And George comes out and he's like, "Get out of here. I don't want what you're selling." And Colin tries to reason with him. The wife eventually is like, "Why are you shoving this white boy around?" Like,
pushing white folk in front of the children.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Why are you pushing white folk in front of the children?
Also, there are door sound effects. Like every time they open the door to the thing, it sounds like they're opening a castle door in a fucking Boris Karloff, Vincent Price movie. Like it's a Roger Corman sound effect.
Oh, that's great.
And so he goes, what's his face?
George.
Colin gets in the door and he's like, "Look, dude, we have to run the tests. You need medicine or you're going to lose your hand. I know you're scared. I would be too. But you're going to have to do something about it. Now you look at me. I am the white savior in this situation. Let me save you."
Yeah.
George kicks him out and says, "Don't come back.
Let me save you so I can impress a white girl."
And Carl Lumley, who is black, and his boss, like, who he respects professionally, if not personally. Okay, now from the commercial, we cut to a couple black kids on the beach watching Kim do Tai Chi like it's Thin Red Line and it's the Malaysian Singers. It's a lot. But then Alex walks up with his beach chair fishing pole and he's going to read his book while he fishes on the beach. And then he proceeds to shit on Kim.
For doing Tai Chi.
For doing Tai Chi, for being a vegetarian, for going to China, for everything. Including...
This white man is threatened by this hunk.
Just like, "Everybody hates you. I hate you." Did you see that Woody Allen movie where he beats up the mime? I want to do that to you. I, protagonist of show, am Woodrow Allen. Okay. Even for 19... Okay. That line ages like shit.
Yes.
Even for 1992, there's a not like, I'm sorry, 1992's Woody Allen reference is a Bradley Cooper's prosthetic nose in 2023.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
But there is coding going on that was not on Northern Exposure, right? Northern Exposure, they just said he was Jewish, didn't they?
Yeah, he's just Jewish.
And this happened on Numbers, which I believe we talked about on the pod before, where it took until like season 5 to reference that Judd Hirsch, Rob Morrow, and David Crumbles were playing a Jewish family. Till episode or season 4 or 5.
You know, I'd like to give them the benefit of the doubt and think, well, maybe people in flyover states can't identify a Jewish person. But in 2023, with all the political stuff happening, I feel like people in flyover states can identify Jewish people for their nefarious purposes.
Bernstein's nose is smaller than Bradley Cooper's real nose. Emily cut something, spoiler. But instead, let's get into the clinic again, where Colin tries to bond with Kathleen. He's tried to play, he's accepted his fate. He's going to be a white savior. We're in Matrix 2 now. So he's like, okay, Trinity, why don't you ride home on my bike with me? And she's like, you fucking suck. I will take the bus.
He's trying. She is
not having it. Joanna Going, lead of Dark Shadows, the revival, is ancillary to B-plot guy's story. From the opening scene, she has dropped down this low. It's like when you find out that guys freak the fuck out in focus groups if half the cast is talking female parts. Like, they're like, there are no speaking men. And it's like, it is actually 50-50. They freaked out with that with Jessica Jones, I think. And everybody was like, there's actually one more male speaking part on Jessica Jones than
weird.
Female. And it's just like, anyway, press the button, nuke us all. No, but we're not watching Joe's Life.
No.
We are watching this, which has now. Okay, so he's like, I'm gonna do better. And she's like, okay.
Okay, but I'm still taking the bus. Bye. And then he leaves him alone. He leaves her alone.
He's like, could you at least smile at me? And then he leaves her alone.
Yeah.
He gestures to her that she should take off her headphones. Okay, then he Vespas away. Cut to Carl Lumley and Roy Datrice. Utah said no. They didn't even come back from Aruba. They called us from there to say no. And it's like, the Mormons
weren't excited about gambling and prostitutes, sex workers.
Or black people. They're the Mormons. It was 1993. Google Mormons, black people. You don't have to write that down. That's legit. You don't have to cut that.
I'm not.
Okay.
Jeez.
Well, I've been thinking about that, whether I was going to make that reference for like a minute and a half, making sure that I was dotting my internal I's. Okay. Then we find out Carl Lumley's got a son in Baltimore who's turning 13, whose name Roy Datrice only knows starts with a J. It is Jeffrey. Will Jeffrey be a guest star on an episode? We will find out. Fingers crossed. Okay. We also establish that the next time we have a accreditation subplot, they're going to do it Carl Lumley's way.
Right, which is actually touring the school, talking to the faculty, talking to the students, looking at whatever stuff they need to look at to properly accreditate the school rather than trying to bribe them with sex workers and casinos.
Yes. And then Roy Datrice is like, cool, we'll do it that way. We'll try your way. And then he's like, hey, are we doing anything we shouldn't be? And Carl Lumley's like, no. Is this an actual
But are
subplot?
they? I feel like the subplot is going to be more about them trying to get accreditation.
Okay.
And less about,
well, wait,
financial or
maybe the show, we don't have anything to hide, do we? No. Cut to the scene where Alex is seduced by that blondie teacher lady, and we find out, we're not going over the whole scene. We're not doing it.
Thank you.
We're not actually doing the grooming scene.
She is intense, man. It is sociopathic.
Fucks. If you show interest in her, we are gonna fuck. You are gonna worship at my feet, like you.
And I will never leave you alone. I will write to you.
You will send me letters.
I will write poems. I will show other men your pictures.
Yes, of your penises, probably. Like, it's a lot, right? You're just like, what the fuck is going on?
She is a predator. Like,
so maybe that's what they have to hide is that but none of the boys are complaining. And there's also the implication she should have other active boys at this time.
Yes.
Okay.
I bet there'll be a plot where Kim is one of them and he knows all of this is happening and never gave the guy a warning and he gets an STD or something. I don't know.
Colin, maybe.
Maybe.
Like that's his first year secret too.
Yeah.
Okay. We then cut to the dean and Colin at night.
Mm,
Colin comes in to have that show Trapper John had like the mentor relationship with
mm.
uh, Gregory Harris. I tried watching that show. It's fucking terrible. But it was on for 4 years, so we can't do it. But it was terrible. Anyway, he comes in. He's like, "Hey, I need to take the EKG machine up island." And Carl Lumley's like, "To the clinic?" And he's like, "Nope, I need to take it to the village on the mountain, to the mountain village for George Turnbull. I'm going to give him an EKG because he won't come in here."
Yeah.
And Colin's like, "That's weird." And he's like, "Look, I know I told you that I don't feel like I should be a white savior, but you're right. I'm going to be a white savior. And maybe then Joanna Going's going to touch my penis and it's going to be great. We're going to have a show. Going to have a show." And Carl Lumley's like, "Awesome. I commit to being in these 3 scenes and doing 1 real episode this season."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Cool. Have fun with that." Do we get a resolution? No. Will we next episode? Who knows? Because it's 1992 and that might be too serialized.
If it's anything like Northern Exposure, there'll be a reference to it.
Okay.
It'll be like, "Oh, remember when George was here? I'm sure glad he's on his medication." Or it'll be like, yeah, it'll be something.
Because we did not get a real sense of how the medical procedural aspect of the show is going to work.
Right.
Okay. And also, I was a little bit wrong because I said that if they'd split this into half-hour shows, it would have been like very progressive for the time.
Mm-hmm.
Doogie Howser did do a medical procedural with a sitcom. Like that is kind of ahead of its time in some ways. Like Doogie Howser went on to become like a Disney Channel sitcom, but it started as a real sitcom with all of what real sitcoms entailed for the late 80s. Like, so I don't know. But still, this was a little bit different because it was an ensemble. Anyway, but no, really the reason it felt like that is because they were promising that they wouldn't show the butt until 9:30, so people could just turn in at 9:30 exactly, finish the end of those commercials that cost the most, and see the butt.
Yeah.
Okay. We then cut to the beach where they're having a fire pit.
Oh yeah. I actually kind of like this scene.
This was the scene where I was like, "Oh, is it not going to be that bad?" But
all the students are around. Not all the students. The main characters. What are there? 6 of them? 5 or 6?
Cheryl, Charlie, Alex, Kathleen, Kim. That's the house. That's the real
that's
world.
the house. Okay. So they're all around the fire pit talking about their day. I don't even remember. The nerdy one is still got his head stuck in the book, trying to read. What's his name comes back. Alex comes back
and talks about
his date with the professor.
And he's got to go put ice cubes in his pants because she left him unbelievably frustrated. It was twisted, exciting, and romantic, and unbelievably frustrating. So,
and then, Kim says, "Why don't we go for a swim instead?"
And so Alex says, "Didn't you see Jaws?" And so everybody goes swimming. Charlie going last because Cheryl has to convince him, and
they throw their clothes off and run into the water. But it's nighttime, so you don't actually see anything.
Right. And they're probably not skinny.
No. I think I saw underpants on one of the gentlemen.
You saw the underpanties?
The underpants. Underpants.
Underpants are back on. Okay. So, I mean, it's a real show. Like, Eric Lawnville directed it. He was the orderly on St. Elsewhere, who has basically gone on to be like a prolific TV director, but also like the most reliable of the like working TV directors. Like, he's so sturdy, and it's incredibly well directed compared to what we've been watching for sure. But like, they're on location. Like, there's no there were no microphones coming into frame. Like, this is ABC putting out that money. So it looks good. The music, I didn't bring it up, but I don't like Oingo Boingo, I've discovered. Though it might have been because it was in the grooming scene and it was burned into my mind even as a wee child because I definitely watched this.
Well, episode 2, I can't read the synopsis because it doesn't make sense to me.
Okay.
But it's called When Lovers Leap.
Okay.
And there's a mysterious figure stalking Charlie, and Kathleen finds out her ex-boyfriend's getting married, and there's some special guest stars, but nobody notable. So yeah, I'm excited about it. I don't want to. I feel like this is going to be the voodoo one, but I could be wrong.
It's his dad. It's his dad. It's not voodoo. It's his dad. It's going to be his dad.
Okay.
It's his shithead dad who abandoned him as a kid.
Oh.
He's going to be on the island and he's going to be like, hey, man, we'll see. I mean, and will we know if it's because I watched it in 1992 or if it's because this is just what happened to my brain, is that I know how people are going to plot mainstream entertainment. I suspect it's the latter, but we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out.
I am disappointed in quite a bit of it, but Carl Lumley's good. Like he's good. He's always good, and he's good here. He might have a good episode eventually. Joanna Going's better by the end than she was at the beginning, and she still gets shit to do, but at least they're not having creepo hit on her and fucking, and then she pukes, so she's a sight gag. Like, yeah. And Erica Alexander, I really hope that
they give her something to do,
because otherwise this is really fucking, like, this could conceivably be that, like, mythical, like, we cast the one, she could be Vanessa Williams on Melrose Place, right? The black, like, no, it's not like Beverly Hills 90210. We've got a diverse cast. And Vanessa Williams is like, I quit. Okay. But moving on. So we will see you next time. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time when we discuss Going to Extremes, episode 2, When Lovers Leap. Andrew, I will see you in television land. Emily, I will see you in television